G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're going to have a discussion, shall we say, about the disaster, let's say, that was the YouTube Cup. It's rather incredible, to be honest, to give you a feel of what happened. For those of you who don't know, I competed in it, and I watched the whole thing unfold on Twitch as well. So, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss from a spectator's point of view exactly what happened. So, the cup started and the live stream started, and there was a really nice banner. The visuals were beautiful. Like, I will say, I'd like to in this video just sort of outline exactly what happened, because some of the things that happened in the tournament, in the cup, were actually really, really good. I'll get to them in a little bit, but we'll start off and sort of go in chronological order and figure out exactly what goes wrong and how Gaijin should address this, because this is really important to Gaijin improving as a company, and for us as the community to either help them or at least at the very minimum not be a burden on their progress, even if it is at a snail's pace. So, we open up the live stream, and as soon as it goes to Fly and Bruce, who, by the way, I will say, I love Fly, I love Bruce, but they're not esports commentators. I'll get to that in a little bit, but they're not esports commentators. Anyway, as the stream starts, and as Bruce and Fly go on stream, there's a very loud music playing. So Fly is literally production, and Bruce is the secondary sort of observer, not the observer, but more the caster. And one of the things that we saw throughout the stream were a couple of interesting things. So, for example, Fly and Bruce didn't have that synergy. There's normally a really good synergy when you see casting. War Thunder's examples are pretty much Thunder League Season 1, the entirety of that. Just search War Thunder Pro on YouTube, and you should find Thunder League and Thunder Cup VODs, which are from 3 or 4 years back. And to be honest, they're really well done. They're very professional. They had certain things that this event didn't have, and it really shows. So, you can see that there is no synergy. Bruce was being sort of lighthearted and fun, which is natural for Bruce. Fly was being serious and analytical, which is sort of natural for Fly. Like, Fly naturally does this. If you've ever played with Fly, if you've ever seen him on stream, Fly is a little bit analytical. He has some fun, but he's analytical for the most part, and that's what really ruined the casting for me. For example, if you look at Rainbow Six, I'll constantly go to Rainbow Six for this, because I believe their esports scene should be a benchmark for every other esports scene in or online at all, full stop. I think the way ESL does Rainbow Six's esport is ideal, in my opinion. I don't watch CSGO, I don't watch League of Legends, I only really watch Rainbow Six, so I can basically base it off that, and I've spent a lot of time watching streams and VODs, and you can see the difference that it makes when it comes to production quality and the final product and the general viewer experience for both War Thunder's so-called esports scene and Rainbow Six's esports scene. Now, obviously, there are several major differences, being game mechanics, and, for example, the Rainbow Six Pro League has been going for, I believe, 6 years, and there's 4 or 5 different regions, Pro League, Challenger League. It's very, very complex, whereas War Thunder's is very simple. But there's always a building block, right? There's no sort of jumping straight up into that level. There's always a build-up. And one of the things that we've got to realize is that we can actually make it to a high level of esports. Whether Gaijin wants to do that or not is up to them. But as a community, we could actually do that. Now, on the stream itself, we saw that Fly was host, caster, analytics, and he was also the observer. Now, for example, I'll go to this Rainbow Six Invitational. That was all done by separate people. You had three analysts, 3 individual analysts. You had a unique caster. You had two unique casters. You had a unique observer. You had several tech teams, and obviously this can't all be filled by Gaijin staff, but I can see it being done by volunteers. For example, Tartarus is a very, very long-standing War Thunder eSports player. He played in the first season of Thunder League. He's hosted several tournaments on his YouTube channel or on Team Thinks, I think it was, and there were some really, really good results from that. You could see that I believe Damien and Tartarus and I can't remember his name for the life of me, German dude. He also did some casting work, and some great memes came out of that. But it was beautiful. But you can see the difference that it makes if you have casting that has some synergy. Soren and Thunderpants also did some casting for a 2v2 Phoenix tournament, and you could really genuinely see the synergy between them. And these guys had never casted before. It was an excellent first attempt at casting, in my opinion, just because they had the synergy, they had the knowledge, they had everything behind them. Bruce and Fly, whilst they're decent, whilst Fly is a decent player, Bruce, I have no idea how much he plays. There's no gauging that, and you can pretty much take a strong guess and say that he probably doesn't play a lot and hasn't played for very long, whereas people like Soren and Thunderpants have played War Thunder itself, have played jets, props, tanks. They've also played tournaments extensively, and that's where the knowledge gap shows. Fly's great. Like, he's absolutely great for commentating on gameplay, for example, but I think Fly needs a little bit of practice before he can sort of master the tournament side, and that's fine. That's 100% fine. But that's just a little minor detail in the sort of whole machine that went wrong with the YouTube Cup. So you look at the stream, and Fly is also observing. All right, this is a big no-no. This has been, as far as I'm aware, a standard of esports since 2008 to have a unique observer. The observer is incredibly important to the gameplay because it shows exactly what is happening. And since obviously it's not possible to be a master at everything, but Fly wasn't really comfortable with the hover camera and the different views you get in the replay file or in the observer file, and it was really, really hard for Fly to properly cast because he had to cast, he had to deal with sort of Bruce's jokes and everything like that. He had to deal with the technical issues, the bugs, the glitches, everything else. And it just didn't work at all because the viewer just could not get a clear picture of what was going on, and it was really hard to follow. You couldn't, for example, zoom out and see a fight erupting on the A cap. If you looked at the Russian stream, you had, I believe the Russians have very competitive, dedicated esports teams and scenes. And you can see where the Russians did it right. For example, the Russians had a separate camera view on the observation for example, some air fights. So you could actually see what was going on in the air, whereas with the English stream, you actually couldn't if you switched to the ground. And this is a big thing that we missed, and one thing that needs to be done with War Thunder specifically, because War Thunder has several things going on at once. You have an air fight, you have a ground fight, you have two capture points. Maybe you've got a 1v1 and two people are jostling for a corner, and you can sort of see with the two observer cameras exactly how that battle pans out. And this is a really, really important step. This is awesome from the side of the Russians, and we didn't see it in the English side, which was kind of sad. Probably because Bruce didn't have the resources and Fly didn't have the resources, and that's not to blame them. It's more a lack of organization on Gaijin's part. But that's not entirely the end of the world. I think we can sort of work around that, and there's things that we can do to help this thing get better. Now, on top of this, we had map bans and map vetoes and game mode vetoes. Now, for me, this was the biggest thing about the tournament. This was awesome. I cannot stress how absolutely awesome this is for an esports scene to finally have map bans on the screen, on a website, properly done for I don't know how many years. I am ecstatic that that was a thing. because you see it in every major esports, and finally it has come to War Thunder. And that is exactly what we need for something to look professional. However, it wasn't exactly done perfectly. And obviously, it's Gaijin's first try. We can sort of give him a little bit of wiggle room. But Fly had to do all the casting. Fly had to do all the observing and all the stuff. He also had people messaging him in-game. That's could just be a simple fix of turning your chat off. But again, that's something that was overlooked, and it sort of lowered the production quality, which was a shame, because it could have been something really good until you look at it from the player's side. Now, one of the things that the players experienced, particularly in the first match against, I believe it was the Russians versus a G Squad group, and the issue was the Russians couldn't ban out their map or their game mode, and so they had to play naval. They had to play naval. And one of the things that they couldn't do, or they couldn't ban out their favorite, or they couldn't ban naval, and so they had to play it, and they lost 2-0. Obviously, if someone has a technical issue, then they should have a rehost. And there was also no rehost function, which I found baffling, to be honest. And we'll get to that in a little bit, because certain other things happened. Let's just say disconnects. Shh, let's not talk about that. But seriously, the ability to not have a rehost and not have a rehost function built in. Mind you, a rehost is where the game is remade, the round is restarted. So having a proper function where you can restart the match wasn't there. And as a result, a lot of people ended up losing rounds because of this, and losing, like, getting eliminated from the tournament. I found that frustrating. I can understand the Russian guys being extremely upset with that. That just shouldn't be happening. I would much prefer if Gaijin had beta tested the bans and everything like that in, say, a mock tournament, and we tested out everything. I think that would be really, really good. And unfortunately, that opportunity was missed. But we can move on now. We can iron out these bugs. And in future, if Gaijin wants to test any mechanics, I'll personally put my hand up to test them. Particularly if it has something to do with esports. If Gaijin needs someone, they have a whole team. They have a whole army of volunteers. I personally would encourage people to try and perhaps jump in, and maybe if Gaijin says, okay, we need someone to test out this map ban and game mode ban, then we can actually do it, because we have the manpower. We have 16,500 of you, and I'm sure there would be at least 10 of you willing to try it out, because you love the company, you love what they do, and you might want to support them in that way. And for me, I would personally do that. I would personally put my hand up for that. Now, one of the other issues when we loaded into the game, for example, my game, we played the World War II preset, which, again, I really like that idea. I like the idea of having a World War II preset and a Cold War preset and a Navy preset, although I do wish there was an air-only preset. That means it would be good for an all-pilot squad. That would blow my mind. I would absolutely love that. That would be thrilling to have in the next War Thunder YouTube Cup. Now, obviously, we can't wish for everything, and if it doesn't come, I'm not going to be fussed. I'm going to still play the tournament. But when we loaded into the actual game, we jumped in. I jumped into my BF109 F4, and lo and behold, it was an arcade match. Now, this put a little bit of strain on us, right? Because it was a really weird mix. It was neither arcade nor realistic. What do I mean by that? I got into the game, I jumped in my F4, and I found that the controls were arcadey. I could rudder turn, I could do all this kind of weird stuff, and I said to my squad, guys, I think we're in arcade. And most of the others were flying, were driving tanks, and everyone was like, no, you're just smoking something. It's not arcade, it's definitely realistic. And then everyone jumped into their planes and realized it was arcade. The thing is, it was a weird hybrid. It was a hybrid, which was extremely frustrating, because you had arcade flight model, RB damage model. And you could feel it in planes like the F4 and planes that ripped. So most of us ripped wings. Most of us crashed because our planes couldn't take the G-force and we weren't given an overload warning because it was arcade and the overload warning is much higher. It was really, really frustrating. And to top it off for me, I disconnected without any other issues with my internet. My internet was perfect. You might say, haha, Australian internet, but it actually wasn't. My internet was working fine. I had 3 other streams running. They were all running on high settings. And my ping was fine. Discord didn't disconnect on me. It was just the game. And this was further reinforced, I suppose, by the Iron Armenian disconnecting by the same means. It was really, really frustrating. We ended up losing rounds over that. And that I can't believe that was in the match. Combine that with the wonky flight models, and it was really, really frustrating to play. Yeffy and I both were getting pretty tilted, and obviously there's all justification for that, and I can understand why people are extremely frustrated, particularly the players, particularly the content creators, about this channel, about this game. It was just tilting. It was terrible, and it just made everyone miserable. The problem from there didn't even get better. Poor Zerba, who's the eSports coordinator, I could see the stress through my microphone, my headphones. It was that bad. Poor guy, man. Poor bloody guy. I could just feel it coming through my headset. Honestly, that guy works so hard, and you shouldn't put it on him, because as far as I'm aware, it wasn't even organized by the eSports team. It was organized by the PR team. And for future reference, I think that tournaments like this should be run by the eSports team, because let's face it, they know what they're doing. They're a good squad, they're a good group, they know what to do, and they execute it 99% of the time really well. Now, to top it off, we had Anton Yudinstev come into the content creators Discord and discuss the tournament with us. Obviously, I wasn't there, I went to bed, but most of the other content creators got a chance to chat with the CEO of Gaijin himself and discuss what went wrong and what they should do about it. And as far as I'm aware, I was told that someone yelled at the CEO. After all this, I understand it's stressful. I understand this is frustrating because I was livid. I needed some alcohol after that, man. That was annoying as all hell. And everyone around me could feel that everyone else was being annoyed. And when I went into TeamSpeak with all my mates afterwards from Eurus, everyone else could feel the frustration. And everyone else just, especially the tournament veterans, the Thunder League veterans, could just see that it was a big mess and something needed ironing out. Now, yelling at the CEO, that's a big no-no, man. That's a big no-no. What you've got to do is you've got to come to them, calm and collect it. You've got to understand that these people, even though they seemingly don't put any effort in, perhaps this was a bit last minute. Perhaps there was something wrong. You've got to give them the benefit of the doubt. You've got to be calm and patient with the snail, because that is how they work. You need to be patient. And I've said this a million times about every issue that Gaijin comes up with and that comes to the surface. Be patient. Being angry isn't going to win you anything. Being angry is going to be cathartic in the short run, but it's going to damage you in the long run. It's not going to be good. And it's not good for the community. It's not good for the game. It's not good for the Gaijin, and it's not good for anyone else in the long run. In the short term, it doesn't get you much either. So, what do I suggest? What should be fixed? What needs to be done? It's very simple. It's actually really, really simple. All Gaijin needs to do is have 2 casters with good synergy. Maybe it could be Fly and Damien. Maybe it could be Fly, Damien, and Philip Dortraber, the German, the one that I remembered, the one whose name I remembered. He's a good lad. Everyone knows all their stuff. Fly is a veteran of War Thunder. He's played a lot of Naval. He understands most of how the game works. With Philip, Dortrabe, and at the Tartarus, Damien, you would get a really nice nice casting crew. It'd be fun. It'd be cool. You'd have Fly there, who's a big voice. You'd have 2 esports veterans. That'd be cool. You'd need a separate observer. One for the Russians, one for the English. You'd need good observers. You'd need perhaps 2. Maybe we can get volunteers. Maybe it could be Gaijin staff. It could be anyone. As long as they're good. As long as they understand how the game works, how the esports flows, and how to use the camera. Not only that, they need to be skilled with OBS. Having good casters will essentially increase the production quality, and having good observers will allow for a much more smoother operation. You could do some test runs, you could do some dummy runs on perhaps a mock tournament or something. And, you know, everyone could have a little bit of fun. It wouldn't really matter. Perhaps we could just do it as a test stream, or even something as simple as just, I have no idea. Maybe you could just test everything and you know, play it with the headphones out, see how it sounds, or, you know, do a couple of test runs before, see how it goes, and see if you can perfect it, because that is extremely important in order to maintain production quality. You need to have everything run smoothly, and you need to test it before. Test the sound levels, test the microphone levels, make sure everyone has a screen to look at the game. I know Bruce didn't have a screen to look at the game. I'm sure with the ideas that I've set out, this should be a thing. It should be able to occur. But the problem is, or the good thing is rather, when you get a good set of casters and when you get a good set of observers, everyone is able to follow the game. Everyone is actually able to see what is going on and understand why certain things are happening. For example, I'll take this again back to Rainbow Six. There's a thing that you can do with certain walls that you've reinforced, where you open up the top with a shotgun or a large caliber pistol or an impact grenade or something like that. And what you can do is you can use other impact grenades when someone is using a hard breach, so something to breach through that wall, in order to destroy it. You throw it at the top of the ceiling, and the splash damage from the grenade will go down and hit the exothermic charge or the Excaris pellets or whatever. And what that'll do, like, that's a little niche trick. There are other things like bandit tricking, like essentially where you have an operator that can put down a shock wire or a battery basically, and it electrifies the wall. And what that does is it prevents people from setting off breaching charges or not breaching, like exothermic charges or whatever, essentially allowing you to keep that wall until the battery is destroyed. You can keep picking it up and putting it down, which is called bandit tricking. And some of these techniques, some of these ideas are very, very prominent in Pro League and in professional games and high-level matches. So what you do is you have people that understand what they are and can talk about this stuff properly. And then you get a good cast. You get noobs or newbies understanding what is going on, and they can learn a thing or two. Maybe they can find, you know, an interesting position, or maybe they'll realize that, hey, cast is actually good for moving an immovable object, for example. If someone is well pinned at the monument on Normandy, you can bomb them, and then what that does, or if you destroy their barrel or their track, then what that means is that you can push up, or you can have a better chance at killing them. And tricks and tips that you pick up from high-level players, particularly content creators, is something that you can transfer to the other players, the newer players that get excited for Fly Daily, because Fly's cool. Fly's a cool guy. But most people start by watching Fly Daily. So a lot of Fly Daily's subscribers, and this comes with me as well, and any larger YouTuber, you see a lot of very new players coming to the game from YouTube. So if they go from YouTube to Twitch and then see, hey, this guy's doing something really, really interesting and it's paying off. It's really like strong. Maybe he's wiggling his turret in the T-34 and it bounces a shell. That's something that you can pick up. And I know Fly knows a lot of these tricks, right? So he's not dumb. He's actually quite intelligent, despite what some people in my comments section think. But honestly, there are some things that you can do to improve the understanding of the player. And that's really valuable. In fact, it's almost paramount to the production. Another thing I would suggest is to have perhaps longer time to promote the event, longer time to get everything in order. As far one of my teammates, in fact, or one of my would-be teammates in this case, actually couldn't join the team because of a bug. And there were issues with that. And once these things are sorted out, it's much smoother, it's much better. And a lot of content creators can actually join if they have more time and less issues. Not only that, but Gaijin decided to put it on a Monday during GCSE week and finals week. Not a good move. Definitely not a good move. I understand it comes during Victory Day, and I believe there might be a Russian holiday or something big. It's very poor timing. Very, very poor timing. So, the future War Thunder YouTube Cup will be held in somewhere to 2 to 8 weeks. It'll probably be very similar. Oh, another thing, I would like some more maps. Some better maps, if you don't mind, Gaijin. Middle East, it's not a great map for tournaments. And there are several maps in that pool that aren't great for tournaments. American Desert, yuck. The only good maps in there were Poland and Abandoned Factory. They're the most competitive maps for tournaments. Other maps are Eastern Europe, the classic, Sinai, the quintessential tournament map. And also you have maps like Ash River. Where was Ash River? It's one of the most balanced maps in the entire game at the level of World War II tanks. Particularly tanks that aren't the M18 or the M1A1 or stuff with high powered weight. There are things that you can do to really, really improve the tournament, both in its gameplay, its production mechanics, production quality, and overall enjoyment. A lot of the viewers were actually upset that the code didn't work, and as far as I'm aware, the code didn't work for anyone. It's a real shame. It's a real shame. Because players came there for the bonuses, and they didn't get them. So everyone walks away with nothing. Literally everyone walks away with nothing except tarnished reputation. It's really sad. But it is not the end. I'm hoping, and if Gaijin wants to, I can help, I can work with them. Other people can work with them, and we can improve this tournament little bit by little bit. And perhaps this can flow on to another professional league of War Thunder. Perhaps this can flow on to more interesting developments in the eSports scene for War Thunder. Because there is one. It's very small, but it's interesting. And even if you get a show match once in a patch, you know what? I'll take that over nothing. It's fun to watch. It's amazing to watch if you have the right production quality. And if you have the right things. It's beautiful. It's absolutely hilarious. And I honestly hope that Gaijin could improve on that. And I'm willing to help. I know a lot of my community is willing to help. And I think we can all take a step back. Again, calm down. Watch what we say. Work with them. And hopefully, the second take in 2 to 8 weeks will be a lot more fruitful, a lot more enjoyable for both the creators and the viewers. And hopefully, I can get myself an E100. Anyway, ladies and gents, I thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you did, type in the comments, Thunder League Season 2 is needed more than the ADATs. Thanks for watching, guys. Quick one. For those of you who are interested, there is an interview done by Toshio Thunder, who is a small YouTuber. He sat down with me and we did some interviews. So there's about an hour worth of me yapping away. if you want to have a look at that, you're more than welcome to. That's up on his channel. I'll try and link it in the description, maybe in the comments. But until then, ladies and gents, take care, and I'll catch you next time.